Welcome to the RotoWire Instant Reaction Show of Championship Sunday. First game was a blowout. The second one was not. I am with my good friend Anthony Cervino. And Anthony, this is a raw place to be. As it's 32-29 Chiefs, fourth time in 5 years. They knocked the Bills out of the playoffs. Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. Before we get into any of this, what is your first reaction?
This Bills Chief game was as advertised, but I'll leave this, or I'll start with this. I feel like Patrick Mahomes played Josh Allen football tonight better than Josh Allen.
I like that. And you mentioned, I know you sent me a text like off the grid. I think that's a great call. He kind of out Josh Allen. Now it's Josh Allen. So we start with the Chiefs side because they won. I mean, you got to start here because they won the game. And I can nitpick Andy Reid. It's kind of dumb to do it because he's in the Super Bowl every year. I thought they ran the ball in early downs too much, and they put themselves in way too many down and distance situations, and it cost them some punts. And if their defense didn't step up, it was going to be a real problem. And there were times when the running game looked good. So, I mean, there's definitely that as well. But, that said, he got away with it. Kareem Hunt had a few nice runs, but 17 for 64. Again, they picked the spots, but I think they put themselves in harm's way a little too much. Again, I'm not going to sit here and nitpick the whole time. I was surprised that Hollywood Brown had targets early and catches early, and that Juju Smith-Schuster became a deal, but he had a good game. But again, how do you nitpick Andy Reid? He's in the Super Bowl. Steve Spagnuolo waits till late in the game to dial up the key pressures. They stopped that fourth down run by Josh Allen, which was massive. First, they had the fumble one they didn't get, and then the same drive. It was the third time, Anthony, they went for fourth down, and then the Chiefs finally, I know the referees had a different, in my opinion, they're all one of 32 teams to me. That was short. Yep. The referees got that right, and the Bills fans are probably going to say he was there. I didn't think he was.
No, I didn't think he was either. And, even that one earlier that it could have, I think it went either way as well. The Bills got it. That second one, he was clearly stopped. And I think it was Tranquil who actually had the timing right and jumped over the pile to make that play. Why didn't, I get that Buffalo was focused on this game, but you don't think that, is there a quality control guide? Hey, the way the Eagles run this, they got Washington to jump. Change the snap count.
Tony Romo mentioned something, and he had mentioned that the Chiefs' timing on those short down plays was very good in the game. Well, you bring up the point. That's situational coaching for the Bills. If they see that once or twice, that's when you start saying, we're going on 3. You change the cadence, you change the snap count. You don't make it predictable. You make it so that they can't jump, because if they jump it once or twice, you could very easily change something in your call.
Normally,
they didn't.
When we see a player, whether it's trying to block a kick, whatever, try to jump over a pile, they're jumping the count. That was perfectly timed. So I think Kansas City's defense, they had an edge.
They did. And no dispute there, but I'm saying that because they did it multiple times in that game, it was a predictable snap count. And again, and I'm repeating it, situational football. So we got a lot to go here. And this is a very raw show as we are going in the aftermath of this game. Mac Hollins, I'm going to over-exaggerate this. The dude's been on 10 teams in the last 3 years, but he's always made big plays. Back to those days with, early in his career, Philadelphia, with Miami, you'd see him make these long catches, these touchdowns. He gets 4 targets, second on the team, leads the team with 73 yards and a touchdown. Shakir had more catches, but Mac Hollins, he comes up big in a lot of spots, but yet he never sticks on an NFL roster. I just find that odd.
It's almost like he assumed the Gabe Davis role on this football team. And I think he's a good player, but is there a reason why he doesn't stick on NFL teams? Should he be leading your team in receiving and second or tied for second your team in targets? To me, I get they won a lot of games this year, but this is another situation where did you have enough ancillary weapons around Josh Allen to take this team as far as you can go?
I'm watching Hollins, and in my back of my mind, and I'm typing notes, and I'm typing down, why is Mac Hollins on the field so much? I know he's a good blocker in the run game. I understand that. And he did make 2 big plays. So how do you dispute it? But I still can't get my mind around. They got Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's not a bum. Amari Cooper has had good games. He still can play. They never I know he had a finger injury, or thumb injury early on in his stay there. But the fact for a game like this, Amari Cooper doesn't somehow get weaponized, because the pass catcher, look, I like Khalil Shakir, very nice slot player, a well above average NFL player. Dalton Kincaid, a drop machine. We'll get back to that in a minute. But I still, in my mind, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just don't get it. Maybe Amari Cooper didn't learn the offense. Maybe he didn't fit in. Maybe he just couldn't get on the same page with Josh Allen. But you would think with all this time, knowing they had to eventually play the Chiefs, you would think that a player like Amari Cooper would be a big part of it. But again, he gets as many targets as Mac Hollins.
Yeah, and it never seemed like Cooper quite fit after the trade. Early, he wasn't on a field a lot. He was dealing with injuries, but it never seemed like this trade worked. So maybe there was a trust factor there that, because it's not like he completely fell off. He was still making some plays before coming over, despite the situation with Cleveland.
So in the same vein, Curtis Samuel, 1 catch back in the end zone, wide open. I was surprised Kansas City wasn't ready for him, because in that first meeting, he had a couple of big plays in the red zone. And it was almost like they knew when he's on the field, they're probably looking at him. And he just skated right between the zone. And it made it one of those things. There was nobody back, but they didn't have any accountability for him. And that touchdown was huge at the time. Go ahead.
No, yeah. Samuel catches it, puts Buffalo. I think that was the one that ties the game.
Yes, 29 apiece.
My biggest worry there is, what happens if Kansas City gets the ball, turns the ball over, if they don't end up scoring, or they score with too much time left on the clock. I feel like a lot of things could have went wrong for Kansas City in that instance. And Spags called a great game up until that point. But, you can only cover so many people. Eventually, something's going to leak through. And I think that was more of that situation where Curtis Samuel kind of just leaked through. Maybe they were trying to take out other weapons. Maybe they were trying to, hey, is this going to be where they're going to try to run it with Josh Allen? And they had a spy on him.
Now, the Bills didn't end up, and I'm losing my train of thought, unfortunately. They didn't end up paying for it, but they had a touchdown. They kicked the extra point. There was a penalty. They went for 2, and Allen got stopped short. They went for 2 later, and they missed. Now, the margin of victory was 3 points, so technically it didn't swing the game. But I think it could have swung some situational football. And I get it. A lot of teams on the one say we're going to go for it. But I almost felt like in a game that was going to be decided by 1 score, I thought it may have been over aggressive. We might be nitpicking here, and I get it. But I thought they should have kicked, because it could have changed how the second half of that game worked. Because the way when Kansas City had tied the game at one point, well, it wouldn't have been tied. They would have been trailing, and it may have changed the feel and the momentum of the game. Anything on that?
Yeah, it's the same thing. We had this exact conversation last week with Baltimore being over aggressive, and my response to that and to this is going to be the same. I think that the analytics say one thing, and the analytics are great in the regular season, but in the postseason, when you have 2 evenly matched teams, you kind of have to take the points when they're there, so you don't have to worry about chasing them later. And this was a situation like Baltimore ended up chasing points, probably cost them the game. Same thing with Buffalo here. And I like how you put it, that no, they didn't, they were so lost by 1 point, but it does change possibly play calling.
I thought it did. I do think it did potentially. And again, it's these little things that you look at the scoreboard and you'll just throw it away and say it was inconsequential. Maybe it wasn't. And maybe it's not a big deal. But we're going to micro analyze these games because we only have 2. And that's it. That's all we got. It's not a 16-game slate where we're looking at everybody. But on the Bills, they ended up scoring on the drive. But there was a drive late, and it was first down. And I was stunned that James Cook wasn't on the field and Ty Johnson wasn't. I get it. He's a passing down back. But James Cook was playing at an insanely good level in this game. I mean, 3 catches, 49 yards, second leading receiver, 13 carries, 85. He was getting massive chunks of yardage. And look, I like Ty Johnson. And when Ty Johnson gets sneaked by a defense, when a defense thinks he's on the field and they're going to pass and he runs the ball, he gets big plays on those. But realistically, how do you have James? And they brought Cook in on the next play. But how do you have Cook off the field at that point?
not only that point, but normally, like we see Ty Johnson as a receiver, that's his strength. That they ran a play that normally would go to James Cook. Is that a situation where Buffalo was trying to be too cute? Because that play was blown up in the backfield.
It was. And again, Buffalo overcame that, but it was just a sign of things that, all right, here's going to be my point. Kansas City's coaching staff made mistakes, but they always find a way to overcome the mistakes and figure it out. The Buffalo coaching staff over the years, they will make a mistake and they don't have the ability to overcome it. And I don't think it's always just the Chiefs. I think, Ty Johnson loses a yard or gains a yard on that run. They end up getting a first down and moving. But they seem, those extra points, they seem to make these little mistakes. And I know they were really good running the ball this year, but I'm thinking to myself, at some point, that's not going to work. We saw it last year in the playoffs. James Cook ran it great in the first half of last year's playoff game. And then when the Bills are trying to salt the game away before they lost, Kansas said, you know what? You're done. You're not running anymore on us. And I know Cook did great the whole way through, but basically what happened was they were 50-50. They threw 34 passes and they ran 32 times. And it wasn't a big Josh Allen rushing day. He did have 11 carries. A lot of those were 4th and 1s. He was not a big factor on the ground. And to think about it, you would think if you're going to go back and play your passing game and let Josh Allen run, it's probably your best version. I get it during the season. The running game, 6 offensive linemen, extra tight end on the field, some Reggie Gilliam at fullback. I get it. It worked. This was a game at Arrowhead.
Yeah, you had to get more creative in these situations. And yeah, you said Josh Allen, 11 for 39. A big chunk came on a 13-yard run. I was expecting a heavier dose of Josh Allen running with the football. I don't think we saw enough design runs, especially in the red zone. You have it's hard to stop this guy, right? I get on the tush push. That's a little bit more, I feel like there's a different story, but they run that power with Josh Allen. That's one of the toughest plays to defend. I think that creativity was missing today for Buffalo. It just seemed like something was off with their offense because regular season, when they play Kansas City, their offense is gelling a lot more.
Yes. And so circling back, I think the Bills coached this like they wanted to win a regular season game. That's how I think they coached it. I don't think they ever understood, and I get it, they understood it. I get it mentally. They knew they were playing for the Super Bowl. I get it. But they didn't coach like they were trying to exercise a demon. This Chiefs team that has put them out in 3 years during the prime of Josh Allen's career, while the team has had better rosters in the past. And this was not over the course of the season, the most dominant Chiefs team. I know the record was great, but this was a team in some ways, maybe it could have been had. But I don't think the Bills gave themselves a chance. I think McDermott and his staff got too cute.
Yeah, there were multiple times in this game where I felt like they got too cute. But is it also like I said, they traded for Amari Cooper, right? They knew they needed that extra help. Is that the player, or is that the instance this season that's going to come back to haunt them? Because we saw Philly go out and get their guy. We saw Baltimore, the impact that Derrick Henry had. And I feel like Amari Cooper was that midseason trade acquisition. Okay, this is going to be the guy we're going to unleash in the postseason against Kansas City. And he's going to be that difference maker. And he didn't show up. It didn't work out.
Anthony, I can't remember, but around the trade deadline, weren't there multiple teams that had acquired wide receivers, and the Bills were a team within a group of those that acquired wide receivers? So it almost seemed to me like, well, we got to do something. We got to make a move. Yeah. But again, I just think I believe that Cooper could still play at a high level, and I think whatever could have been done coaching-wise, I think that was a problem. But that said, what do we do with the Bills going forward? I want to make one more point. I want to note that on the season, the Bills had a 13-4 record. They lost 4 games on the road. And, excuse me. And they lost mostly to good teams. They lost to the Rams on the road. They lost early in the season to Baltimore on the road. They struggled against good teams on the road. And this game was definitely there for the taking. But this is one of those cases where having the home field, and last year we had the Tyler Bass miss, but not having the home field, it is significant. And it's one of those things. The Bills were in the running for it close near the end. And then I know they had a loss that kind of put them out. But is this team going to break through at some point?
at what point is that going to be? You know, and you think about somebody like John Elway, where it took him towards the tail end of his career to go get those Super Bowls.
And he didn't win that Super Bowl. He did not win that Super Bowl, right? Terrell Davis. Right.
With
it was
the
not even his
migraine,
offense anymore. Right. Elway wins Super Bowls, and he didn't even win them. And Peyton Manning's second Super Bowl, that was everybody else carrying him over to finish line. His first one, he won. He earned that one. But the second one, it wasn't even his. So I hope it doesn't come down to the point where Josh Allen is going to, if he gets one, it's going to be everybody else carrying him. But that's going to be hard to see. He's 28 years old, and we've talked about the history of big, bruising, running quarterbacks. Cam Newton, Dante Culpepper. Josh Allen is not playing this style until he's 35 or 38 years old. He is not playing that long. He's not Derrick Henry. He's not the Derrick Henry who defies everything and is playing way beyond his, what you would think a player that all those hits. That is like unicorn outlier forever. But Dante Culpepper was big and bad, and Cam Newton was way bigger and badder than Josh Allen was, and they couldn't make it. And Allen keeps taking hits, and at some point, it might not be this year. I mean, next year, might be the following year. He's 28 or not making it to 35 or 38 and be playing at that level because that running will go away.
Yeah, and can he? Because I think about there's that Ben Roethlisberger. He was mobile, but he wasn't a running quarterback. He had some longevity. No. Is there, can Josh Allen begin to maybe tailor his game as he ages and more of a thrower, or is he that reliant on that part of his skill set to succeed? And I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch.
Think about Josh Allen's big plays. Many of those. He rolls to his right, and I don't know why teams don't flush him to his left. I cannot figure that out. Rolls to his right, fights off 2 or 3 defenders, looks, and then just a howitzer throw back across the field where he finds somebody. When he starts to lose that athleticism in the running game, at that point, he can't make those plays. What's left? Because he is not, in my mind, this great reader of defenses that's going to check, perfect. That's not his game. He's a big dude with a big arm who's won in big spots, makes plays with his feet, extends plays. But I don't see him as the Peyton Manning, rip and shred. I don't see that.
So back to what you said, that, is it ever going to happen for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? These past 2 years of Chiefs teams, they've been beatable.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't see them going into next year. Worthy looks like they hit on Worthy. They're going to get Rice back. We know they hit on Rice. So, they're going to be better next year. And even if Travis Kelce retires, Noah Gray, or they're going to figure it out at tight. It's just if you didn't get this team the past 2 years, I don't know.
And Isaiah Pacheco probably heals from his leg injury. He's not close to healed from his leg injury because the player we saw was a good player right now. And it's not his fault. Isaiah Pacheco is not a good player right now. And you saw Kareem Hunt, 17 carries, Isaiah Pacheco, 5 for 12 yards. You saw the game, and it's not his fault. But next year, you better believe it's more likely than not that we see a closer version to Isaiah Pacheco to what we've seen in the past, to what we see in the current. And you add that, like you said, they build on Worthy. Maybe they bring Hollywood Brown back. I would think after the injured year, it might not be difficult to bring him back. Kelsey's going to fall off. It's what's going to happen. But realistically, Patrick Mahomes is firmly in his prime. People want to play there. People might take less money to play there. So we will talk about Chiefs, Eagles. Is there anything else about this game before we move to the other one that you want to talk about?
Just one more comment on, I guess, on the Bills. And that is, go get Josh Allen more help, right?
Yes.
Mahomes, right? I think Mahomes' biggest asset at this point is Andy Reid and Spags. Go look what Barkley did for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Look at the impact of these elite players pairing with the quarterbacks. I get Josh Allen could be a superhero at times. He needs help. If he's ever going to get a Super Bowl, bring it to Buffalo, he needs more than Khalil Shakir and a 32-year-old Amari Cooper, however old he is.
Oh, my God. All right. Now you got me heated again. So, no, I'm not done. Now, this is a team that was playing for a Super Bowl this year. and they had Josh Allen. And they chose to go with that 6 offensive lineman pack you mentioned a little bit earlier and to run. They ran almost as much as they passed. And ultimately, like you said, the receivers, I was not thrilled with the wide receivers. But if you're going to go into Josh Allen and you're going to make the run game the staple of what you do, and you're going to take that run game saying the run game is going to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs instead of Josh Allen, again, this is a team that does not understand as a coaching staff what it takes to be a Super Bowl champion. I'm done. You got anything else on it?
No, that was good. That was a good way to end it.
We will move on. We're getting a little heated, everybody. We love you all out there, but we are getting a little bit heated tonight. We'll probably get a little less heated about this game. Eagles 55, most points scored by a team in a conference championship game, 7 rushing touchdown. Back in the 1940s, the Bears had 7 rushing touchdowns in a game, 7 rushing touchdowns. Look, I predicted as many. The Eagles will win. I didn't have any confidence they would cover the 6-point line. Nope. I bet them down in the same game probably as a -2.5. I was a chicken. I thought that Washington would be able to like backdoor cover, score some points. But realistically, this Philadelphia team, they finally, like they did against the Steelers in week 15, 16, they knew we got to pass in this game. And I talked about this on Sirius XM. A.J. Brown is going to be a factor. I know he's been struggling. He's going to be a factor in this one. I said, bet the 90 yards, move him up to 90, bet him anytime touchdown. They're going to have to win with the passing game. And Barkley only had 15 carries. 15 carries for Saquon. And if you bet the 126 prop and you didn't go under, you were in trouble because despite a 60-yard touchdown, only 118 yards. Now he scores 3 times. I get that. And I'm sure people were just thrilled to see Will Shipley take a 57-yard run late, those that bet Barkley for yardage. But who's arguing? Because the game was out of hand. You don't want to get anybody hurt. That was as smart as you could be. And Jalen Hurts did enough as a passer. And when you have players against really a poor defense, Washington is a poor defense. They have some nice pieces. They blitz well, but really, Deron Payne out in the interior line, that hurt. Those corners were never going to have a chance to consistently hold up against this group of receivers. Saints still played a great season. Marshawn Lattimore, you can be a bully, but you ain't bullying A.J. Brown, and we saw that. Thoughts?
Yeah, if you watch Philly come out, because I'm with you. I thought Washington would cover. I was worried about Jalen Hurts' leg. I was worried about the potential, what's going on with the knee of A.J. Brown. Philly came out, and Kellen Moore pitched a perfect game. He could not have called a better football game. This has been, right, because Jalen Hurts usually in playoff wins, he's like under 150 yards, maybe he throws a touchdown. Right. 20 of 28, 246 and 8.6 yards per pass, only takes 2 sacks. And the ball distribution, A.J. Brown, 696. Goddard heavily involved, even as a runner, goes 785.
Right.
Devonta Smith made plays. And those were really like your 3 best receivers, not named running backs. Those were the focal points of your offense. And yeah, you want to spread the ball around if you have to. They did not have to because the talent of the Philadelphia Eagles was way too much for Washington's defense. This team was just way, way too talented.
Like you said, we were worried about Jalen Hurts. We knew he had the knee brace. We knew he was injured last week. He normally was running about 20 passes a game. Now, this is a little bit misleading. The Eagles ran 36 times and Hurts threw 28, but that wasn't that way. They ran the ball late in the game and padded those rushing attempts. This was a legitimate 50-50 game. This was legitimate. And maybe even were skewed a little bit more to the pass in this game. They understood what to do. They knew Washington would come out and try to sell out or try to, attack Barkley. And that first play, that pitch to Barkley, it was so smart because if you're going to sell it to stop the run, you're probably going to bring it up the middle and that pitch outside. Now, there was some poor tackling there, of course, but Barkley makes you miss. That's been the whole deal of his year. And so it was just amazing how they wove together. Like you said, Kellen Moore pitched a perfect game. He did. He knew his opponent, did exactly what needed to do. Jalen Hurts was timely, didn't run for a lot of yards, but a lot of were like tush pushes and touchdown runs. So that's how 10 carries become 16 yards. So there's that. But it was nice to see A.J. Brown get going here. So Now, the offensive line, Landon Dickerson has the knee. Cam Jurgens, fortunately, he was able to get in the field. Hopefully, is back with maybe spasms. Hopefully, in 2 weeks, hopefully he's good to go. Don't know what Landon Dickerson's knee deal is, but like to see them have a full offensive line in this. I don't have much else to say about the Eagles except for it was a beautiful outing. Again, it was so important for them to be balanced on offense because as great as Barkley's been, you don't want to go into the Super Bowl being a one-dimensional team. Steve Spagnuolo will find a way to pick at that, and at the right time, he'll make the right stop. And you don't want to be in that spot. You want to be able to do what Buffalo couldn't do is have high-level weapons to get the ball to. And that was, again, one of the fallouts of that game. Anything final words on the Eagles? Before I get to the Commanders, I've got to talk about that Christian Benford thing back in the Buffalo game. I forgot to talk about that earlier. Anything else on the
I guess my closing thought on the Eagles is that there was a time this year, the Eagles defense, first few weeks of the year, they were still building. And their offense was kind of still coming together. And there was a point where I think I made a tweet or I could have said on the show with you, this team, because Detroit was obviously the powerhouse. I said the Eagles, they might not be the best team in the NFC, but they're the most dangerous. Because when the Eagles come together, their defense could be the best in the league and their offense could literally be unstoppable when you have the talent that they have. And we saw it today where this team, I mean, yeah, they gave about 23 points. They forced quite a few turnovers. They got to 3 sacks, but they were pressuring Jaden Daniels all day long. They're outstanding in coverage, and then offensively, when both things are when the run and the pass is working, you see it. 7 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. This is why I said they're a really dangerous team. Because
you know what?
When the stars align, look out.
I lied. I should have thought with the Eagles defense. And this was similar to the Week 11 game as the Commanders. I know Terry McLaurin had the slant and run, and that was a great, beautiful play. But realistically, the wide receivers did very, very little. De'Ami Brown all early, 3 for 42, a fumble on one of those. Zacchaeus 4 for 26. And again, that one catch by McLaurin, it was a great catch, and we give him credit for that, and we don't take it away from him. But you take it away, he went 2 catches for 15 yards the rest of the way. This was Vic Fangio doing what he did in that Week 11 game, saying, we are not giving you downfield passing. So, Jaden Daniels, if you want to beat us, you're going to dump the ball to your running backs, you're going to dump the ball to your tight end, and just like in that first game, it was a lot of targets to your 16 targets to Zach Ertz. That is exactly what the Eagles wanted. Take your 6-yard gains. Fine. You can have that all day long. We could care less. You're not breaking a big play on us, whatever. Austin Eckler, 7 targets, because, again, we knew that the dump off was going to have to be there, and Eckler did not have a big fumble. And you mentioned, though, as you said, not only did Philly treat Washington the way they did in Week 11, but those turnovers, forcing those turnovers, that was big. And some of those were really like the Eckler one. We had heard on the TV copy that they coached them when the players on the ground as they're getting up to get in there and knock the ball out. And it was exactly what the coaching staff had asked for. So a well-coached defense. Vic Fangio, look, Miami got rid of him last year because he was too mean to the players. I'm not in there. I don't know how this works. Well, the Eagles sure don't seem to be complaining, Anthony.
No, absolutely not. Like I said, it took a couple weeks for it to gel, but this defense, I would put it right up there with Spags. Like this playoff matchup or the Super Bowl, which we'll probably talk about later. I mean, defensively, it's going to be fun to watch.
Oh, we're definitely going to be talking about it sooner and later. The line on the Super Bowl, the early look-ahead line was 2. It's 1.5. It's Kansas City 1.5. We'll talk about that game later, but it's a very interesting line in this game. I'm not going to give anything away. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Before I get to the Washington side, though, I am really frustrated. I might be wrongly frustrated. Christian Benford came out and played this game. Now, he had a concussion last week. He was limited with the red jersey on Wednesday and Thursday. They listed him as a personal do not practice on Friday. Now, honestly, odds are in conference championship week, you're probably not taking a personal day. Now, could a family member have gotten injured or something bad happened, it's possible. We didn't hear anything about him. I am very concerned with the league that Benford was rushed out for this game. And I don't know who these independent neurologists are. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, this is my speculation. So please don't understand me guessing. But it didn't look like Benford was going to play. He comes out there, he gets cracked in the head, and he is out on a cart. Yeah. And if he suffered a second concussion, which he did, a clear second concussion in 7 days, this young man's long-term health is at risk. And if they rushed him out there because it was a big game, I am angry because, look, player health, their lives, their families, it's more important than anything on the field. That was me. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did clear with flying colors. Maybe he was 100%. But the 2 limited and the do not practice really make me question it, Anthony.
Yeah, and you can go on social media and there's going to be content out there, but this is from Chris Nowinski. I don't know if you, Chris Nowinski, the CTE neuroscientist, former pro wrestler, former football player, and he takes a lead in all of this. He tweets out about an hour ago that Benford was cleared from the protocol 3 hours before the game.
Oh, that's too coincidental. Way too coincidental.
And again, he's not with the league. I have to do a little bit more digging, but I don't think,
true.
This is somebody who leads the CTE studies. I don't think he's going to lie about that.
No, it has to be true because they would have said, and I was looking this morning for Schefter. I was looking for Rappaport. Do they know something about him? And they didn't. So all of a sudden, magically, you're not clear. You're not clear. Oh, 3 hours for the game. Guess what? We're getting ready for the game. You're clear now. We're ready to go. Seriously?
And what he also notes in the post that he calls it a seemingly modest hit. Like he wasn't lit up by him.
No.
I mean, it was, I would call it just that.
Every play, it's an every play in the NFL hit. There's a hit to the head on most plays. And to me, it totally wasn't that. And I hope that young man's health is not compromised because I will be, again, I can't quit the NFL because it's my job and I love it and I wouldn't do that, but I'd be very angry with the NFL if they did that to him. And I like this. We have great comments all day, but Steven points out that, the NFL is all too coincidental across the board. It even reminds me there's a regular season game with Josh Allen. And I remember there was a game where he took a massive shot to the head. He went to the blue tent and then the other team turned the ball over. And my gosh, 12 seconds later, whatever, he was running on the field and back in the game. It was like, I'm not missing a play. And you cannot, I don't know much, and I'm not maybe a brilliant person, but I know you can't pass concussion protocol in less than 2 minutes. Yeah. I don't think that's even reasonable. But again, Bill, I think it was the game against the Lions. I may have been. Maybe
30 years ago, you could have. Not today.
Not today. And so again, these players' lives and health are really, really important. All right. Washington side, not a lot to say. During the playoff, this is a wonderful season. If you're a Commanders fan, hold your head high. This was a beautiful season, 12-5, no regrets. You got your quarterback of the future. You got to build an offensive line a little better. You got to build up some more defensive talent. But to have the quarterback, that says it all. So Commanders fans be really excited for Jaden Daniels. There wasn't enough around him to give him help here. But the Commanders in their first 2 playoff games, they pretty much played clean football. To my recollection, I don't think they turned the ball over. In this game, it just didn't work. Now, Daniels had 1 pick to Quinyon Mitchell late. We had fumbles by Eckler, Jeremy McNichols on that kickoff, De'Ami Brown. And of those, and I don't have, I'll have the article on the RotoWire tonight, but those turnovers relating directly to points. In the first half, 2 of those were quick Philly touchdowns. And then they also had a penalty, and I can't remember exactly what the penalty was, but the penalty had turned a 7-point into a 3-point opportunity. They had, anyway, long story short, they lost a lot of points, but it's way more than that. They got boat raced. It is what it is, but it was turnovers. They never had a chance because they didn't protect the ball. And again, this is a young team. I'm not mad at them. It is what it is, Anthony.
Yeah, it was a great story. I mean, Jaden Daniels, like you said, like if you're a Washington Commanders fan, you're excited for what the future is because you have a future for the first time in a long time. But I think this game was telling because, there's a part of me that still thinks last week, Detroit, if that defense was healthier, because that defense played well earlier this year. Maybe you're boat raced by the Lions, but that defense couldn't stop anybody. You advance. But when you run up against this Philly buzzsaw, I mean, again, and I said this about Buffalo. I said this about a lot of teams. I'm going to say it about Washington. When Zach Ertz is your leading receiver in the playoffs, that is not something to be happy about.
No,
and if that's your case, like if you're previewing this game, you're saying, hey, Zach Ertz he's had a great year and they're going to use him to beat Philly. That's not good. And Zach Ertz's terrific career. You don't want him going 11 for 104. That probably means it's garbage time. McLaurin, he's your most legitimate weapon. You really, Diami Brown, Zacchaeus, like they just didn't have enough. And maybe they had enough if this was an even game. And what I mean by even game, 0 giveaways. But if you are that mismatched in talent and you give the ball away 3 times, this is going to be the outcome almost every single time.
So, we had talked about this a little bit earlier, and Fangio gave them exactly what he wanted to give them. And so you're right. Zach Ertz cannot be your leading receiver. But that's just like in that first game in week 11. That's exactly what Fangio gave him. We're taking away your receivers. You can have all the dump offs to the tight end and the running backs you want, because that will not win a football game against the Philadelphia Eagles. So you're right. Fangio crafted that and gave them that. And Daniel's look was always, oh, he's open. Pop, pop. And that's, he took what he gave him. But unfortunately, that is not enough to win a football game. Stephen had a great question. We actually covered it. So Stephen, when we're done, if you can rewind back, you'll catch it. We did explain the 2-point conversions. We did not like them. We thought that in each scenario that it changed and I know the outcome again, we said earlier, it was 3 points, but in the flow of the game, those may have meant something, and taking those ones would have been important. There was a point where the game was tied, and it would have been a case where it may have been a 1-point Buffalo lead. And that would have been late and that would have been potentially different and how the Chiefs had to approach the last 10 to 12 minutes of the game. So I do think those missed 2-point conversions potentially, but again, you can rewind that back after we're done. We definitely covered that there. Anthony Cervino, it is time. We are going to do a quick preview on Super Bowl 59. And how do I know what Super Bowl it is? Because whatever Super Bowl is the same age that I am. How crazy is that, right? So I'm 59, so it's Super Bowl 59. Makes it nice and easy for me. So, and Steve said, depending on the betting side, you like that. You're right. Yes, because the line was 1.5, and this is a 3-point game. So that was, again, very big as well, right? Because so that was a big thing for the point spread. Excellent call on that. All right, so we are going to talk some Eagles and Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Anthony, this line is 1.5 on this game. What do you think the line will be in 1 week?
What do I think the line will be 1 week? I think the line moves. It would not shock me to see Philly favored by 2.5 to 3 points.
I get what you're saying. Patrick Mahomes, as an underdog, has played some very, very daunting teams. He has played the Lamar Jackson type teams of the world, conference championships. He's played the Josh Allen teams. And I get what you're saying. The Eagles have a better defense than this year's Bills, not as good as last year's Ravens. Good, but not last year's Ravens. The offense, when it's humming like it is today, there's definitely something to be said there. But we've seen Jalen Hurts at a struggle. Anthony, I just cannot see the public and even the sharps betting against Mahomes when they only have to win by 2 points to win. So if it goes to Philly side, that means people are betting significantly against Mahomes. I know what you think. Do you think the betting market will drive this line further in the favor of the Eagles?
See, there's the Super Bowl's different, right? Because you have the fans like us, but then it also draws people from everywhere, and they're going to sign up in sportsbook promos, and they're going to have bets to make. Everybody is so sick of Kansas City and Mahomes winning that logic goes out the window, and they're going to take Philly to win. And I think that's going to impact line movement. They're not going to bet with their mind. And this is the issue with people who play fantasy and wager, when you play with your heart. And I think if people bet with their heart, because I want to see Mahomes lose. I'm sick of him hammering the Eagles.
When do you think the significant public money comes in on the Super Bowl? My guess would be in the 72 hours prior to the game. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, you're about right on that. Even sooner than that. Like even like closer to the game.
Yes, might even be game day. It may
Yeah.
be game day. The sharps who see this line and like it are going to put boatloads of money on the side they like. If the line moves, the sharps are going to move it. Knowing that, do you still think this line favors the Eagles?
No, put it
Same
that
here.
way.
Same here. And what that means is, look, I'm going to have a really hard time betting against Mahomes. And I know everybody's tired of it. I get it. Why did I bet the Chiefs today? Because Patrick Mahomes doesn't lose these games. It's the dumbest analysis you ever. You know me. I will tell you the offensive lines. I'll tell you the backup linebacker. I will tell you about all these little intricate matchups, about all these teams. And you know that's what I do. And ultimately, this game today, what was my dumb analysis? Well, Patrick Mahomes is going to beat Josh Allen because it's what happens. And is it any different? Is that exactly what happened today?
I mean, it's crazy. I remember last year when we were doing these shows and you were trying to sell me on Baltimore and their defense. And I'm like, and I just kept saying, but it's Mahomes. And I'm just going to keep picking them until somebody beats them. And I would take the over on Kelsey props, but the Baltimore defense, I'm like, but he just shows up. And I'm just going to keep doing it. That's what I did today. He just shows up. And that's what we're doing next week. And it's hard because I think Philly can win, but it's Mahomes. And until somebody beats Mahomes in the playoffs or the Super Bowl, I will not bet against him. I logically can't do it.
So to the game. All right. If I'm Andy Reid, which I'm not, if I'm Andy Reid, first thing I'm doing in this game, Joe Tooney, you did a wonderful job of tackle. Get your butt back to guard. Because Jalen Carter is not wrecking the game on me. If you've got Frank or Mike Caliendo, Frank Caliendo was a comedian, right? Did all the voices. Yeah, Frank or Mike Caliendo at guard. Jalen Carter is going to wreck the day. If Joe Tooney with Creed Humphrey and, Anthony, why am I bonking on the third one? Oh, my God. And Trey Smith. If those three are on the interior, Jalen Carter's going to have a tougher time wrecking the game. And you know what? I'll put DJ Humphries, who they signed late season off that ACL, and I know he wasn't good. I'll put him on the outside because you know what the Eagles don't have? They don't have a dominating. Nolan Smith's playing great. Nolan Smith has been playing great, but he's a small dude. And I think DJ Humphries can at least get a hand on him enough to slow him down. So I do think I want that first. And the other thing is, look, Vic Fangio, what do we say? He is great about limiting explosive plays. What are the Chiefs not even attempt anymore? Explosive plays. They're going to run Worthy across the field. They're going to run Brown across the field. They're going to run these mesh routes. They're going to rub people off. And Slay's on the outside, fine. And Quinyon Mitchell's on the other side, fine. But realistically, they are just going to set them up all over the place. And the one thing I worry about for the Chiefs, though, is they ran the ball, too much today. And we said it during that breakdown. I get it. They had success with Kareem Hunt. But they were in very obvious passing situations too frequently. And there's sometimes you got to say, we don't have a sustaining running game. Hunt will have nice runs, but he's not the guy he was. Pacheco is clearly still injured. They have to come in and they have to make the screen game the running game. And if they do that, I don't know if Philadelphia could slow them down. Any thoughts with the Chiefs offense against this Eagles defense?
You know, a couple of years ago when these two teams played, I think it was a screen game that ultimately put the dagger in the Eagles, right? Remember at the end when we saw the two, what was it, Sky Moore, and it was a play to, I think, Tony. That's normally what beat them a few years ago. And we're probably going to see something similar this year, only Kansas City has a little bit more talent. I think what they're going to have to really do to probably win the game and move the chains, they need to use those passing plays that act like running plays. And we saw that today when Worthy broke that big one towards the end of the game on that scoring drive. It was almost like he was coming across the field and he slips through the inline tight end and the outside receiver. And it was like a running play that just popped on a screen. There's going to be a lot of that.
So I do think the Chiefs are going to have a lot of success despite how good the Philly defense is. If they don't move Tooney to the inside, though, that will be a problem because Jalen Carter will wreck their day. And that was going to cause a lot of problems. So we'll see how Andy Reid handles that one. But to me, that's a real significant component of how we approach that game. The Eagles side. And again, we're going to break this down in deep detail as we get much closer to game time. But everybody wants to hear this opening up and how we're looking at it. Look, talent-wise, obviously the Eagles' offensive line is much better than that Buffalo line that was having there. And the Buffalo puts extra people, and I get all that. But the Philly line is still better, and they still could be physically dominant. And they have Saquon Barkley, and James Cook had a great game. Well, Saquon Barkley. And all the receiving and pass catching options on Philly are significantly better. Now, Jalen Hurts, we don't know what kind of game he's going to have. We don't know if Spagnuolo. Here's the thing. Biggest thing. If Jalen Hurts gets blitzed, he crumbles. So if that running game is not on point and it's not smashing them down, and we know Spags loves the blitz, and Spags in this game probably blitzes for two reasons. He blitzes to get the Hurts, but he also blitzes to stop some of those run lanes and make the offensive line struggle. To try. And look, they're going to take their chances. Barkley might bust a couple long ones, but realistically, they just got to outscore him. So I'm a little bit concerned that Spagnuolo may have answers and put Hurts into that vice grip that is the blitz. And we've seen Tampa Bay has had his number.
Yeah, and it might sound crazy to people because of how good Philly's defense is. Well, we just have to outscore them. This is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. We saw it today against Buffalo where Kansas City's offense, it's kind of a little bit inconsistent. When they had to, they came out and dropped 32 points. I don't know if they scored 30 all season.
You're right about that. This was not a Chiefs team that was lighting up the scoreboard. I don't know that anybody would have predicted that. Looking back through this, 26 against the Bengals, 27 against the Ravens. That was week 1 and 2. 28 against the 49ers, 30 against the Bucks, 30 against the Panthers.
Yeah.
No. And then, that was their highest scoring game of the season.
Yeah. When they had to have it. And against a good Bills defense. This wasn't Carolina.
So, in other words, in my mind, for the Chiefs to win, this is dumb. They need Mahomes to be Mahomes, which that shouldn't be a problem. And they just need that to get the passing game diversified, which they're very good at. Fangio, again, like I said, will give you the underneath stuff, and they just need to work with that, stay patient with that. And on the defensive side, we need Spagnuolo just to put Hurts in a bind and make, as dumb as that sounds, make Barkley beat you because he's going to have to beat you for 4 quarters down and down. 2 70-yard runs, fine. We'll match that by scoring. Do you have any thought on that side of what the Chiefs otherwise may have to do to win?
Force, and I think I said this going into the Rams game. Put the ball, and just like what you said, put the ball into Jalen Hurts' hand. He's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's more prone to mistakes. And look what the Rams did. They got pressure. They got sacks. They kept the game close. So if you, like you said, contain Barkley and make Jalen Hurts beat you, I don't know if he can. Now the Chiefs, obviously he could beat Commanders. He could beat other teams. Chiefs in a Super Bowl, I don't know.
I want to point this out for the audience. Jalen Hurts had that massive Super Bowl performance against the Chiefs. And you remember that game. And you're like, well, it's Jalen Hurts. Here's what I want you to know. No, this is no knock on Hurts, okay? The reason the Eagles had that brilliant offensive season is the ineligible man downfield rule was completely different. They would run RPOs, and their linemen would be 4 and 5 yards downfield, and they would basically be able to throw or run into that. Whereas now, if you throw the ball when that happens, it's a penalty and it comes back. It was a cheat code that the Eagles mastered with the skill set of their quarterback and their offense. And it was beautiful, that offensive line. And once you've noticed, Jalen Hurts has not been the same quarterback since that rule was changed. The cheat code was taken away, and it makes him be a real processor at quarterback. And again, when the pressure comes, the problem. Anything on that, Anthony?
No, we could move on.
All right. So we kind of mentioned, what do the Eagles need to do to win this game?
I think we're going to have to see Philadelphia come out and play the game that they played today against Washington. Everything's going to have to go perfect, offensively and defensively. It's going to have to go perfect because to beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl, I think you do need to pitch a perfect game on both sides of the ball. It sounds easier said than done, but I don't know. I don't see any other way than Philly coming out and dominating on the ground and opening things up for A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts.
I think what Philly needs to do, and I'm worried that Spagnuolo will have an answer if they start doing it. I think the passing game needs to be very quick strike. It needs to be quick slants to A.J. Brown, drag routes to Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, some catch and run screens. I think it needs to be a lot of that. I think they need to weaponize Barkley in the passing game a little more than usual. I think that because if Spags wants to get blitz happy, which he's going to do, knowing Hurts is past, I think he needs Kellen Moore needs to have that quick set of answers, knowing he has the personnel as good as McDuffie is, and Jalen Watson's played well. I know he's back from the injury a couple of weeks, but as good as they are, the Eagles have elite pass catching talent, and the Chiefs are not good against tight ends. This is a game, if they get Dallas Goedert going, we can see Goddard get 100 yards in this game if they use him right. They have some ability, but like you said, it may need to be a near perfect game. Mahomes has not been making critical mistakes, and that hurts them because they're going to need a mistake. And I just don't know where that mistake's coming from.
Yeah, even today, Mahomes did have I think he had that one fumble, but he still has not thrown an interception since that regular season game against Buffalo. So we're going on 8-9 games. For anybody waiting for that Mahomes meltdown, I think you have to wait. Keep waiting.
All right, we are going to probably change our predictions a number of times. I will be breaking this game down. I will have notes on my X at Jim Coventry NFL. I'll have those by Wednesday or Thursday to give you a real early look. I want you to get those prop betting markets before the numbers get skewed. And I've noticed this. They're getting props up very quickly now. And I noticed the ones that are popular, we get an advantage on. The juice on those is going through the stratosphere in the wrong direction. So we want to jump those early. So again, go to my X at Jim Coventry NFL. Like Wednesday or Wednesday for sure. I think Wednesday for sure. I'll have it. It's only one game. So no problem with that. And we'll get those bets early. Anthony, what's your early? You'll change it. What's your early prediction of a score and who wins?
Oh, you want the score too?
It's an early one. You're not held to it.
I'm gonna back my guy, Patrick Mahomes. I think they pull off the three-peats, and I'm gonna go 27-26. I think it's gonna literally be a Harrison Butker field goal or a Jake Elliott missed field goal.
So if you're betting the Chiefs, so if you're betting the Chiefs, you better take the money line because that 1.5 is going to cut it.
Absolutely.
My way too early prediction is more along the lines of like a 29-24 thing, 5-point game. Like I said, the Chiefs don't win by a lot of points, but I think Jalen Hurts is going to make some mistakes. But again, we have a lot of research to do on this game. We got a lot of different angles to take. Anthony, closing words on championship weekend.
I get the early game blowout, still a little bit exciting early, but this second game, this Chiefs Bills game, if you love the NFL and you love football, this game is why. This game gave you everything. It was a roller coaster. I couldn't be any more. What's the word? I couldn't be any happier than what we got. I don't know. I'm trying to say it right, but I'm thrilled with the game we got. I feel like it took years off my life.
And I've been saying through the playoffs, this was the playoffs of the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
And the haves were in the AFC, it was the Bills, it was the Chiefs, and it was the Ravens. And in the NFC, those who read RotoWire, I had the Lions as one and done. Now I had the Vikings beating them. I was wrong on that, but they had way too many injuries on defense. I love the Lions. I love them, but I knew you would have to be perfect on offense to overcome an injured defense like that. So the Eagles, in my mind, were the only have team in the NFC. So there were 4 have teams. And what we saw We saw blowouts in the first couple rounds of the playoffs, and we saw a blowout today because the have-not teams could not stand up with the haves. So this is among the best matchups we could have. The Eagles needed to get through because if anybody else got through, odds are it was going to be a boat race in the Super Bowl and not going to be fun to watch at all. This is our best chance at a good game.
Yeah.
Anthony, I know that Scott, our friend Scott, told us that drafts are on props are on DraftKings already. So what I tell everybody is I will have those notes up by Tuesday afternoon. Those notes will be on my exit Jim Coventry, and I'll pin them, my Super Bowl notes. You'll probably get a good 15 pages, 12, 15 pages. We'll have that all set up for you. We'll break down everything in the best detail possible. Jamie, I see he's got some bets ready. He's got plus 600 Chiefs money line. Kelsey, it's 600, but if they're 1.5 point favorites, that sounds like that'd be a big number.
No, there has to be another leg to that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, you mean plus 600 for all those Chiefs money line? I see Kelsey 50 yards. Kelsey anytime in a Barkley. I got you. So you get plus 600 for. I get it. That makes perfect sense. So, at some point this week, late in the week, Anthony, I'll get on here and we'll do a little bit more on this game for you. Remember to hit me up on the X at Jim Coventry NFL. Hit Anthony up at the Real NFL Guru. Anything else you want everybody to know about?
No, I'm excited for this offseason. What we're going to do here at RotoWire. Make sure if you're listening right now, subscribe to the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel. We have a lot of great stuff coming.
Yeah, thank you for that. We really want to reach 3,000. We're like 100 people short. So if you can help us out, we'd really love that support. And if you want a free trial at RotoWire, no credit card needed, 2 days. You can check out baseball. So if you're into baseball, we have the best coverage on the planet of baseball. You go to rotowire.com/Jim or the one on the screen, .pod. Definitely can do that. Somebody said, help me sleep. Thanks, Sammy. Well, wait, at least we can do some public service for you. At least there's that. But I'll probably wake you up because my voice gets too loud. You have to turn that volume down nice and low. Tell you that one. There were about 1,200 people there today. Thank you. We appreciate you. You have a lot of things to do, but it's game day and you chose to hang with us. Anthony and I thank you greatly. Everybody, we will be in contact real soon as we get ready for the Super Bowl. Hope you enjoyed the games. Have a wonderful rest of the day.